From the communication station at Sanctuary Heart, they still hadn't been able to communicate with the away team for almost 2 hours. Kirk and the others knew that if the party had been caught outside, they'd be dead by now. He turned to Julius. I don't care if Listen isn't scheduled to return for 3 days. I want him here now. Julius looked Kirk in the eye. You keep your Starfleet nose out of it. Kirk smiled without humor. I seem to recall that my Starfleet nose, or at least my Starfleet self, was one of the things you and your brother desperately wanted to get to Sanctuary. He took a deep breath and calmed himself. Julius, listen to me. Something external is jamming the frequencies. I'm not accusing the Florians of anything. I'm sure they don't even realize what's going on. Now, will you contact them or shall I? Julius's shoulders drooped slightly. I'll do it once we have communications again. Uncle and nephew stood side by side in the communications room for the next 23 minutes until a welcome, lively female voice was heard.
Come in. Sanctuary Heart. We have minor injuries and are returning to home base. Do you copy?
With a relieved grin, Kirk leaned forward to reply, but Julius's hand blocked the motion. The younger Kirk replied instead. We read you loud and clear, Scully. What is the nature of your injuries? They next heard Alex's voice, turning warm with affection. We have some minor dermal abrasions, but we're able to find shelter in time. Did you figure out what was causing the malfunction? Julius looked up at Kirk. Not exactly. We think perhaps the Florians may have accidentally jammed the signal. We're going to try to talk to them. When the shuttle finally arrived, Julius hurried to embrace his brother. 6 engineers scuttled out to attend to the Drake. Kirk propelled Scott to a quiet corner. What happened out there, Scotty? Your nephew cracked. You were the one who found the shelter then? Ach, no, can't take that credit. Young Scotty kept her wits about her and found it for us. Later, Julius was able to reach Listen, who transported in toward evening the next day.
Good evening, Julius. It's good to see you again. Alexander, let me express my pleasure that you are all right. Ah, and Captain, Julius has informed me of your communications difficulties. It's rather embarrassing, but, well, I'm afraid they're not going to end any time soon.
With Julius glaring at him, Kirk challenged Listen. Why not?
We're planning to reopen an old facility on the other side of the planet. You've inspired us with your colony, you see.
What kind of facility are we talking about?
Merely a resupply base for trading with various cargo ships.
Julius nodded, as if that explained everything. It accounts for the increase in subspace communication. But Kirk pressed further. What about the problems in our communications?
We have erected a shield over the trading facility to prevent anyone from absconding with anything of value. You see, Captain, some people with whom we trade are, one hates to say it, not entirely trustworthy. It appears to be that shield which is interfering with your communications.
It made sense, but there was still something wrong. I see your predicament, Listen, but is there any way you can change the shield's frequency so it doesn't interfere with our signals? Listen looked uncomfortable and apologetic.
Our technology is not nearly as advanced as yours. For now, at least, we can only operate the shield on this specific frequency.
Kirk spread his arms in an all-encompassing gesture. We have a dozen or more highly skilled engineers that we'd be happy to send over to your facility and make whatever adjustments are necessary.
Captain, you're most generous, but you have set us a challenge, you see. We would like to tackle this problem ourselves. But when we are, how do you put it, at the end of our rope, we won't hesitate to contact you.
Julius stepped forward quickly. Then it's settled. Listen, I do have some questions on the specifics of something. A word. The two walked away together, chatting quietly. Alex smiled. Well, that problem is solved. But as Kirk watched the alien and his nephew bow their heads together in close conversation, he had his doubts. Late that night, Alexander and Julius dined together. Everything is okay, isn't it, Julius? Oh, yeah. The Florians aren't as technologically advanced as we are, so there are bound to be some glitches when they try something new, but I suppose that's part of diplomacy, isn't it? Helping the other species save face? Alex smiled. You're right, as usual. That night, as Julius lay in bed, he couldn't sleep. Alex could have died out there, and the Florians hadn't said anything to Julius about jamming their communications. If Kirk hadn't brought that Russian along on the trip, Julius doubted if it would ever have been detected. Damn Kirk, always getting in the way. Lying back down on the pillow, he thought about his childhood and Kirk's part, or lack of a part, in it. The Pearsons left the boys alone almost all the time. Alex had made the meals and told Julius bedtime stories. Alex had protected him from the bullies and helped him with his homework. Alex was the sun around which Julius revolved, and every now and then, their Uncle Jim would show up. Alexander had a forgiving nature, and he never blamed Uncle Jim for not saving them. But Julius never forgot, nor forgave. And now Uncle Jim was here. Damn the Florians. Why had they made that the deal breaker? He had done everything they wanted, even served some time in a pretty bad alien prison, getting the things they had asked for. Why the hell had he gotten involved with the Orion Syndicate? The answer was because they were the only ones who could get him what he wanted. A colony for Alexander. Gun runner. Looking back on it, he could see each step down that dark path had led him to the next step, and the next. He couldn't believe he was now trading in illegal weapons and information when the goal had been to found a colony of peace and technology. He kept replaying the conversation he'd had with Listen today. What the hell is going on, Listen? My brother almost got killed today. Listen had looked at him with those large, cold eyes, devoid of any emotions save perhaps a flicker of amusement.
The danger to which your brother was exposed was not intended.
What is going on with this facility? Listen had smiled.
It's really none of your business, Julius.
And Listen had stepped away, ending the conversation. Julius didn't know what this mysterious facility was really for, but he knew its purpose wouldn't be that of innocently catering to trading vessels. He'd finally thought himself safe for the first time in his life, safe and sound at last, on Sanctuary, with his brother. He'd sold his soul to pursue Alex's dream for him, and damn it, that ought to have been enough. But it wasn't. Julius Kirk didn't fall asleep until the small hours of the morning, and when he did, he had a dream. Alexander was looking at him with sorrowful disillusionment in his eyes, just before a cackling Listen fired the very weapons Julius had obtained for him, and killed them both. The representative of the Orion Syndicate, known to Listen only as 858, paced in the Spartan quarters that served as a conference room. His green lips curved in condescension.
You're behind schedule, Listen.
It's been unavoidable. It was the Syndicate's idea to have Captain Kirk come along. He's been nothing but trouble.
The dark, steady gaze of 858 was unsettling.
Let us hope that he does not suspect.
Kirk doesn't suspect.
Even as he uttered the words, Listen knew they were a lie. Kirk suspected something, all right.
But listen, old friend, when are you going to be ready? Our patience does run out.
The words sent shivers across Listen's body, but he kept his face neutral.
We are very grateful for all your help, but you must admit, when you will be paid, it will be quite the treasure for something that required relatively little effort from the Syndicate.
It is the value of that treasure, Listen, that made us agree to be paid later rather than sooner. Now, our problem is, time is running out. You have 2 weeks.
Kirk hadn't served in Starfleet for as long as he had without learning when to trust and when to be suspicious. And right now, he was suspicious. He voiced his concerns only to his old trusted friends, Chekhov and Scott. Each day they met for lunch outside where they could dine al fresco and not be observed. Kirk lay on his back, watching clouds move slowly across a blue sky. He bit into a carrot and looked over at Chekhov.
Status report. Communications have cleared up slightly, but I don't think we can successfully send or receive messages outside, and I still think someone is listening in.
Scott leaned toward Kirk.
One thing Chekhov and I did notice was that it looks like the Florian's able to get messages through on a narrow-band subspace carrier wave. It's able to punch through their shield just fine, thank you very much. And we're getting flyovers almost daily. Sometimes more than once a day. There's a lot of traffic up there, Captain.
Kirk permitted himself to finish a drumstick, then announced his decision.
Gentlemen, we're being watched, so I think this base needs to be investigated. Either of you like to accompany me?
It was 0134 the following morning when Kirk, Chekhov, and Scott rendezvoused at the Drake. Seconds later, they were aloft. Chekhov shook his head, smiling in amazement.
I thought for certain we would have been noticed and challenged.
Kirk grinned.
I knew we wouldn't. Alex thinks we're on a research mission to document the cycle of a rare, night-blooming flower. Coincidentally, it happens to grow in profusion very close to where Listen's mysterious base is located.
As they approached the continent where the facility was located and spotted it, Chekhov shook his head.
It doesn't look big enough to be a resupply base.
The facility was hardly a full kilometer wide. Whatever it housed was protected and hidden by a ghostly blue shield that also prohibited examination by a ship's computer. Scott's fingers flew over the controls. He shook his gray head.
I tried all the tricks in the book, but I cannot penetrate the shield. The technology is a lot more sophisticated than they'd like us to believe.
Kirk made a decision.
Land us, Scotty.
Scott maneuvered the small shuttle until he found a large copse of trees with a meadow in its center. He settled the Drake gently down onto the grass.
Well done, Scotty. You need to stay with the shuttle and get that shield down long enough for us to get inside. Once Chekhov and I are in, bring the shield back up immediately and get out of here fast. Then keep monitoring for our life signs outside the shield. We won't be able to communicate with you once we're inside, so it's up to you to keep a sharp lookout and get us out of here.
Scott was disappointed he wasn't going inside, but he saw Kirk's logic. He turned back to the computer, and with a flourish, he touched a few more controls. The screen began to display a series of complicated graphics and code.
All right, Captain. Here's the situation. I've been able to piggyback on that subspace carrier wave, and I can disable their entire security system from here. Any monitor, screen, scanners, they'll all go out. The only thing you two will have to worry about is being physically seen.
Kirk grinned, clapped the miracle-performing engineer on the back, and opened the shuttle door. He and Chekhov dropped quietly down to Earth and sped for the Florian's so-called resupply base. Just as it appeared that they were both about to slam into the shield and probably be killed, thanks to Scott, the shield disappeared. The instant they were inside, the shield was re-erected. Commander Tisra, the Klingon bird of prey, Krator, had never been more bored in his entire life. He lay in his bed, unable to sleep. He knew that he had been given a great honor to assist his noble chancellor in carrying out her vow to James T. Kirk of Disjage, the year and the day. He had followed the large, ungainly ship called the Mayflower II to this planet, nauseatingly named Sanctuary, his own ship maintaining its cloak the entire time. Why had Captain Kirk, by all accounts an adventuresome human, come to this wretchedly peaceful place? At this rate, the entire year and day would pass before Kirk would do so much as stub a toe. At least there was some activity to break up the monotony. Tisra had watched with mild interest as the Florians worked without ceasing to build a space dock close to Sanctuary. He had made note of the vessels that came and went. Many were large cargo vessels. Some were sleek, dangerous-looking fighters. One or two, Tisra thought he recognized as belonging to members of the Orion Syndicate. If the Florians chose to deal with the scum, let them. His sole focus was James Kirk. To that end, of much greater interest were the daily flights that Florian ships made over the colony. Tisra also hoped that this mysterious facility the Florians had built on the far side of the planet would prove of interest, but thus far, the shields had only been lowered for the briefest of moments. Tisra lay in his bed, unable to sleep.
Commander, Captain Kirk and 2 others have left the colony and are heading to the facility.
Tisra leapt out of bed, his blood racing. Perhaps the time had finally come to pay the discharge. Phaser at the ready, Kirk looked around while Chekhov studied the tricorder. In the distance was a large tower. Scattered about were 6 or 8 outbuildings, all small, utilitarian-looking, and single-story.
Captain, I see no cargo areas, no ships, nothing that even remotely resembles a vessel. But that tower is the source of that subspace carrier wave.
Then Chekhov frowned.
This is a Starfleet issue relay, I'm certain of it.
Carefully, they moved toward the mostly darkened structures. Kirk heard a slight noise and pulled Chekhov up close against the nearest building. Several meters away, a single bored-looking Florian guard carrying a Starfleet-issue phaser strolled past. Quietly, they moved on.
Captain, there's a large entrance into the Earth at the center of the area. A tunnel of some sort. I'm detecting evidence of high-level technology there.
When all was clear, they sprinted for the tunnel. The mouth was several hundred meters wide and narrowed as it went into the Earth. Listens claimed that they didn't have the level of technology that the colonists possessed was clearly a lie of the most elaborate sort. Kirk caught a glimpse of Florians scurrying along corridors here and there, carrying pads and looking focused.
I'm detecting very little indication of weapons, Captain. This may be some sort of research facility.
The 2 men hopped onto a lift and rode it down. When the lift stopped, they jumped off in an empty corridor. Many of the darkened rooms were storage facilities for equipment, and much of this equipment was Starfleet issue. It solved at least one problem. Kirk leaned over and whispered in Chekhov's ear.
The Orion Syndicate.
The next room into which they ventured was obviously a laboratory of some sort. Kirk spotted what he was searching for: access to a computer. Mr. Chekhov, start downloading anything you can. Chekhov nodded and immediately began configuring the tricorder to link up with the computer. Kirk picked up a pad that lay tossed on a table next to a cup of something that had been poured and forgotten. Of course, the information was all in Florian, but translation would be easy once they got back to the colony.
Captain, look at this.
Kirk looked up to see a graphic of various shapes parading across a screen.
I am not certain, but I have a general idea of the focus of their research: nanotechnology.
Kirk watched as infinitesimally tiny machines marched about their business.
I think, Captain, they're going to be used as some kind of weapon.
Kirk's stomach clenched. I want you to go to the deepest level of information they have in the computer.
Aye, sir, but if I try to break into their encrypted files, I could alert someone to our presence.
That's a risk we have to take. Kirk's mind was racing. This complex was enormous, and it wasn't anything new. How could Alex not have known about this? The answer came to him almost immediately. Julius. Then he thought of the Starfleet technology generously peppered through the complex. Kirk thought, "Oh, Julius, I think I know what you've done." Chekhov broke into Kirk's thoughts.
I've done as much as I dare do.
Good job. We've got one more stop on this pleasant little tour of the resupply station. According to the tricorder readings, there was an enormous cavern at the very bottom of the facility. After taking a long ride down on a lift, they stepped into the control center that was clearly the heart of the complex. Chekhov was in awe. Every wall was lined with panels and monitors. Kirk had moved forward to look at some of the images on the screens. Most of them were of places he didn't recognize, but there was one he did. He was looking straight into the formal reception hall of Starfleet's headquarters in San Francisco. He turned to Chekhov. My friend Admiral Standing Crane told me that the Florians were a very curious people. Whatever they're planning, there's a good chance it's going to affect the entire Federation. Kirk nodded to one of the enormous consoles. Chekhov hastened up to it, but soon frowned. They have a heavy encryption on the data here. Continue, Mr. Chekhov. Chekhov's eyes searched his for a moment, and then he nodded. He turned, took a breath, and touched the computer. As his fingers flew over a few soft pads, the tricorder began to hum. Captain, it's working. Chekhov snatched his hands back. His fingers were blackened and smoking. Kirk rushed forward and grabbed Chekhov's tricorder and phaser. Let's go. As they raced for the nearest lift, Kirk could hear the guards coming. He looked around and saw metal rungs extending up as far as the eye could see. There was only one way out. He glanced over at Chekhov. The younger man's handsome face was twisted in a grimace of agony. Can you climb? Chekhov forced a smile. Do I have a choice? Chekhov began to climb slowly and in obvious agony. Kirk followed, and glancing down, he saw a handful of guards come running into the corridor. Kirk looked up. They still had such a long way to go. You can do it, Pavel. It seemed to take an eternity, up ladder after ladder. Finally, Kirk saw that they were close to the top. There were only 2 or 3 more ladders to climb, but before they could scramble over the lip of the tunnel and head to freedom, they had to get the shield down. Checking the tricorder, he found that the next floor up was filled with weapons, technology, and Florians, the facility's security posts. So he sent Chekhov ahead to finish the climb to the top and wait near the opening of the tunnel. Once Chekhov was in position, Kirk scaled the ladder to the next floor and ducked into the first security room he came to. He surprised a guard who quickly reached for an intercom button, but Kirk was faster. The guard crumpled. Kirk whirled and fired again. He took out 2 more guards. His pulse racing, Kirk examined alien lettering and various colored buttons on the console. Blue, the same pale blue as the shield. Would it be that simple? That obvious? Chekhov, I'm in. I'm going to press a button. Let me know what happens. It's down, Captain. Snapping his communicator closed, Kirk headed for the ladder and started climbing.
Look!
But soon the guard spotted him, and then the next second, a blast struck inches from his head. A few centimeters above him was the lip of the tunnel, and he almost lost his grip as the booted foot kicked him in the face. He reached up and grasped the leg attached to the boot and pulled. The Florian guard hurtled down into the depths. Kirk pulled himself over the lip of the tunnel. The shield was still down, and the stars arched above the complex. He got to his feet and took off running. He dematerialized in mid-stride. Back on board the Drake, Kirk treated Chekhov's serious injuries with the medikit and filled in Scotty on what had transpired. Scott smiled at Chekhov.
It's good that you got that information, laddie. But if it's encrypted, I doubt there's anyone sufficiently trained back at the colony to break the code.
Kirk's heart sank at the words.
Between us, Scotty, we'll come up with something.
At that moment, Alex's voice filled the little shuttle.
Uncle Jim, we're under attack. Repeat, we're under attack.
Even at top speed, it was several minutes before the Drake could reach the colony. They saw the brutal orange and crimson glow of the fire while still several kilometers away. There had been a few injuries, none of them serious, and no fatalities. The only true casualty had been the Mayflower II herself. Alex was still panicked when he met them after they landed. They came out of nowhere and just started firing on the ship. Did you see who did it, Alex? We didn't recognize the ships at all. Scully came rushing up. Tears of sympathy welled in her huge eyes.
Mr. Chekhov, your hands, your poor hands.
Pavel, go with Scully to see the doctor. Alex lets you and Scotty and I go to look at the records. Before they left, Kirk took a quick look back at the crowd that was busily damping the flames. Among them was Julius. Their eyes locked, and Kirk saw a brief expression of anguish cross Julius's face before the younger man turned away quickly. In Sanctuary Heart, they looked at the images of the ships that had made the attack. Kirk and Scott exchanged glances.
Alex, that's a vessel built by a species that is known to have dealings with the Orion Syndicate. See that shadow on the hull? That indicates a false panel. They can remove it to display the mark of the Syndicate when it serves them.
Alex's eyes widened.
Do you think they're dealing with the Florians?
Yes, I do.
No wonder the Florians wanted that shield. Maybe they stopped dealing with them, and the Syndicate retaliated by attacking our ship.
Kirk sighed quietly. Alex still bought Lissen's story about the facility being a resupply base. And now was not yet the time to disillusion him. The colony awoke to a crisp, bright dawn. Kirk was up early, helping everyone scavenge what they could from the Mayflower II. Clearly, the attack had been to simply make sure they had no means of escape. Kirk glanced over to see Lissen materialize nearby. Lissen stared at the remains of the Mayflower II.
What happened here?
Alex told him about the attack. Lissen shook his head, looking pained.
It appears we are both victims. You see, last night our facility was broken into. Whoever it was did a great deal of damage and even stole some things. I would imagine it was those same people who destroyed your vessel. We were dealing with some very unsavory people.
He turned to look Kirk directly in the eye, and Kirk felt a chill. Lissen knew all right. Lissen nodded to Alex and touched a button on his chest. Kirk gave his nephews an avuncular smile.
Let's go inside. There's something I need to talk to you both about.
Once they were inside Alex's quarters, away from prying eyes, Kirk seized his youngest living relative by the front of his shirt and shoved him into a chair, hard.
I want to know what the hell is going on, Julius.
Julius's pale face flushed bright red.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Yes, you do. You know where we were last night, just like Lissen knows where we were. Did you tip him off, Julius?
Alex looked at his uncle.
Where were you last night?
Tell him, Julius. Tell Alex where I was and what I saw. I can't believe that my own nephew...
Julius sneered at him.
Oh, yes. The nephew of the great Captain James T. Kirk. I'm not the first person in this family to break a few rules in order to get things done.
Julius, I've bent the rules. Sometimes I've even broken them. But I never would have sacrificed my own family. I didn't know why they wanted you so badly. It was part of the deal, and we had to have sanctuary.
Alexander had gone pale.
Julie, what have you done?
Julius Kirk broke. His body sagged, and tears filled his eyes.
Alex, I did what I had to get you sanctuary. They wanted technology. I gave them technology. Then they wanted information. I got it for them. Then they wanted weapons. I got those too. Finally, they wanted you, Uncle Jim. That was the deal breaker. I had to get you here. And now they're preventing us from communicating with the outside, and have destroyed the only way we have to get off this damn planet. Oh, God, I'm such a fool, Alex.
Alex stared open-mouthed at his brother.
Julie, my God. Did you really think I wanted you to become a gun runner for me?
He turned away from Julius, and slowly, Julius looked to his uncle.
This is all your fault. You let us rot. I'm sorry, Julius. Maybe one day you and Alex will forgive me, but right now, if you want to help, you have to tell me everything.
Julius took a deep, shuddering breath.
Okay. It started a few years ago. To get us a planet, I started keeping my ears open for any edge I could find. At first, the Orion Syndicate didn't seem to want much. They helped me get what the Florians wanted.
Kirk interrupted.
Last night, Scott, Chekhov, and I went to check out this so-called facility. It's some kind of laboratory and research facility crammed with Starfleet technology. They're monitoring hundreds of places scattered throughout the Federation, including Starfleet headquarters itself. The Chekhov was injured when we downloaded some information from their computer systems. We were able to determine that the research is centered around nanotechnology. They're planning something that could potentially harm the Federation, and the Florians obviously don't have any intentions of letting us leave. He glanced at Julius. Were we supposed to be hostages?
It never occurred to me, Uncle Jim. When they wanted you so badly, I assumed it was just to wave it in the faces of the Huani. They hate them so much.
Kirk latched on to what Julius had said. The Huani. They hate them? Even now? Why?
I don't know. Some ancient racial thing, I think.
Okay, Julius. We've got a job to do. On the bridge of the Kurator, Tisra stared at the images of flickering fire as he drummed his sharp-nailed fingers on the arm of his chair and mused aloud.
The colonist ship is destroyed, so Kirk obviously knows something. He yet lives, which means that the Florians deem his life has value to them. Contact the Chancellor. She might have a chance to complete her discharge sooner than anyone has expected.
In the capital of the Klingon homeworld, Spock sat alone in his quarters, absently plucking the sweet-sounding strings of his Vulcan lyre. He was pleased with how well the peace negotiations were working, even on the less political front. Dr. McCoy had initiated a medical staff interchange, and Uhura was enjoying the rehearsals of Earth music and Klingon opera in which she was participating. Wars had been won by less.
Enter.
Spock put down his lyre. Chancellor Azadbor quickly stepped inside.
Chancellor, what may I do for you?
I have a favor to ask, and perhaps an even greater one to offer. I have reason to believe your friend James Kirk is in danger. A few weeks ago, I took the oath of the discharge.
Spock nodded.
The year and the day, which stipulates that the one who swears the oath will protect the other for an entire Klingon year and a day.
Azadbor nodded with approval.
You have indeed familiarized yourself with our customs. I've sent one of my most trusted men to guard Kirk without his knowing, and I've just received his report.
Briefly, Azadbor told Spock of the planet's sanctuary, the blocked communications, the increased presence of the Orion Syndicate, and the destroyed vessel.
Then she added, "It is my thought that perhaps it would best be handled by the Federation."
Thank you for your information, Chancellor. I will contact Starfleet immediately.
Azadbor nodded once, then left. Spock turned to his computer.
Dr. McCoy, Commander Uhura, please report to my quarters immediately. I may require your assistance.
Later on the monitor in Spock's quarters, Admiral Standing Crane looked terribly apologetic.
I understand how you must be feeling, Captain Spock, but every single ship is spoken for. Still, if you give me proof that Jim and those colonists are in real danger, I'll get you starships so fast it will make your head spin.
Thank you, Admiral. I will do what I can. Spock out.
McCoy and Uhura stood behind the console, the doctor shaking his head.
We can't leave Jim and the others there.
Indeed we cannot, Doctor.
Uhura sighed.
We don't have a ship of our own anymore.
Spock raised an eyebrow and turned back to his computer. Soon, Azadbor's image was on the screen, and Spock made his request.
Of course, Captain Spock. My only regret is that I cannot accompany you myself. The Koltarg, a Katinga-type battle cruiser, is under your command. Her crew is to obey you as they would to obey my own word. Azadbor out.
At the Florian facility on Sanctuary, the green face of the Orion on the screen revealed no emotion, but nonetheless, Listen shrank inwardly from 858's image.
What did they get away with?
They downloaded some information, but they have no cryptographer.
858 frowned.
Then the operation will begin in 3 days.
Listen almost choked.
That is simply impossible.
What a shame, Listen, because Because if you're not ready to go within 3 days, we will descend upon your facility and take everything, then blast it and you out of existence.
After 858 terminated the conversation, Listen leaned back in his chair. Things were getting very bad, very quickly. There was no way they were going to be ready in 3 days. The option that Listen personally liked best involved destroying a Syndicate ship and having a dead Orion pilot at the helm, an Orion named 858. But murder was the Orion's passion, not his. Listen's was only to help his people get what they should have been given a long, long time ago. He rose and went to an ancient wooden box in a corner of the room. Gently, reverently, he lifted the lid and respectfully touched the gleaming stone's rough surface. Somehow, his ancestors had known the true value of the yellow-hued great stone. Now, it was going to bring his people justice. With great affection, Listen stroked the largest, most perfectly formed dilithium crystal in the known universe. Kirk had ordered that everyone assemble in Sanctuary Heart's conference room, which Scott had already swept for any eavesdropping devices. He spoke briefly, telling of his, Scott's, and Chekhov's trip to the facility. Kirk played on their sympathy, asking Chekhov to rise and show his still, unhealed hands.
We obtained this information at a great personal cost. It's up to you to help us determine what the Florian plot really is. Is anyone here trained in encryption? Not a single hand went up. Then shyly, Scully raised her hand.
Captain Kirk, would you let me try?
Kirk knew that the Huani were shockingly quick and intelligent, and retained everything they learned. Who knew but that Scully's ancient link to the Florians might serve them well now?
All right, Scully. Give it the old Academy try, and impress me.
She did. At her own request, she sequestered herself in a room with a computer. After 14 hours and 22 minutes, Scully emerged, a smile on her weary face. She extended a pad to Kirk.
I did it. They had triple encryption sequences that relied on a familiarity with their regional dialects and slang terms, which is why it took me so long.
Kirk gestured with the pad.
This is amazing. Well done, Cadet.
Scully blushed and bounced up and down. They replicated multiple copies of the decrypted information and handed them out to several different groups. Until the clusters of scientists reported back with their findings, there was little Kirk could do. He poured himself a cup of coffee and went outside, suddenly craving the feeling of real sun and air on his face. His eyes lingered on the wreckage, and he sipped his coffee slowly, thoughtfully. He knew that there would be little enough defense when Listen and his buddies decided to swoop down and make their hostage situation a formality. Alex's insistence that this be a peaceful colony with no weapons, not even for defense, would prove to be their downfall. He, Chekhov, and Scott had only their handheld phasers. Julius came outside and stood next to him.
Uncle Jim, I can't get Alex to talk to me. I wish there was something I could do to undo this. I wish I'd never laid eyes on this place, or the Orions, or Listen.
Julius, we can't do anything but wait until the scientists come back with their report. Julius groaned.
I hate waiting. I want to be doing something.
Kirk smiled. Now that's one thing we have in common. Scott stifled the urge to wrap his hands around Kevin Talbot's throat and throttle him. He knew that Talbot was about 3 steps ahead of him in keeping up to date on technological breakthroughs, but the man was as slow as a bear in midwinter. Finally, he could take it no longer. Scott leaned over and touched a few panels. Scott and the rest of the engineering team leaned over the screen, barely breathing, as they watched the nanoprobes dance across the screen. They were witnessing a test, and as Scott began to understand exactly what was transpiring, he felt the skin at the back of his neck prickle.
Lord, have mercy on us all.
Dilithium crystals!
Those were the first words that Scott said to Kirk, Chekhov, Alex, Julius, and Scully as they entered the secured debriefing room.
What about them, Scotty?
Think for just a moment about how important they are. Without dilithium to power our ships, the entire quadrant would slow to a grinding halt. We've had a look-see at the nanotechnology the Florians have developed, and judging by our computer simulations, they've concocted a nasty virus that will render dilithium crystals inert, so they'll no longer be suitable for regulating matter-antimatter reactions.
Chekhov sighed wearily.
And from the sound of it, those Florians have planted this virus everywhere.
Scotty, how stable is the virus?
Unfortunately, very stable. It's smaller than a dust mote and can adhere to skin, clothing, damn near anything.
Alex spoke up.
At least it's not weapons. We were thinking that the Florians were going to start a war or something. We thought millions of people might die.
Kirk turned to his nephew.
They may not die initially, but when it's learned that every starship, every major mining colony, every hunk of dilithium is now not worth a damn, then there'll be violence, all right. Scotty, tell me there's something you can do about this.
Oh, there's not a bloody thing, but I'll keep running the computer simulations. There could be a flaw somewhere, something we haven't thought about yet. One thing that I did notice was that the grade of dilithium the Florians utilized in their testing was amazingly pure. About 99.98% pure. The value of such a thing on the black market would be staggering. I'll bet that's it, Captain. They've teamed up with the Orions to get a hold of and control a cache of pure dilithium.
Chekhov added his own thoughts.
So they have weapons, they have the Syndicate, and they have a target that's rich in dilithium. The question now is, where would they strike?
Suddenly, Scully's ears drooped, and she was trembling.
This can't be. I'm not allowed to tell. But I have to help.
Her eyes met Kirk's and she swallowed hard.
Captain, you've been told that the Florians wanted to leave Huan. That's not true. We, the Huani, banished them. They labored for us for centuries as slaves, growing our crops, mining the soil. But when we had sufficient technology that we no longer needed them, we put them on a ship and put them down on Falor.
Kirk stared at her. Her lip trembled.
It was a lovely planet. It wasn't cruel to leave them there. They did just fine on Falor. We even extended the hand of friendship to them, but we were refused. They hate us, Captain. You can't imagine how much they hate us. That's why I wanted to become an ambassador, and why I was so excited about getting to meet a Florian.
But Scully, no one ever told us that you had enslaved the Florians.
Tears poured unheeded down her face.
We were ashamed. Wouldn't you be?
You know my planet's history. Until very recently, slavery, unfortunately, wasn't at all uncommon. We were able to see that it was wrong, admit it and move on, but what does this have to do with the dilithium?
I'm not sure, but there used to be stories, tales about beautiful, powerful gems deep in the earth. Maybe those folk tales are real, and the Florians who used to dig in the earth knew it. And it's a perfect excuse to attack us, to hurt us, as they feel we hurt them. They'd become very wealthy and exact revenge at the same time.
Kirk's thoughts churned. How could the Huani not know that they had dilithium deposits? They'd have scanned for them. But what if something prevented the scan from reading correctly? If the Florians did indeed have ancient knowledge about hidden deposits of dilithium buried deep within Huan soil, knowledge of which even the Huani themselves were ignorant, then of course they would want to control the dilithium trade. Destroying the efficacy of dilithium across the quadrant would make what few unaffected deposits there were fabulously rare. Thanks to the weapons and technology provided by first Julius and then the Orion Syndicate, the Florians would easily be able to take Huan while the Federation limped along. Scott interrupted his thoughts.
Something's bothering me, Captain. I don't want to run some more computer scenarios.
Kirk sighed. It didn't just look bad, it was bad. And he didn't have the faintest idea what they were going to do about it. That night, Kirk lay awake in bed, thinking furiously. At any moment, the Florians could come for them. Chekhov and Alice Harper were frantically doing everything they could to try to get a message out, but Kirk knew in his heart that it was just a way to keep spirits up.
Scott was still running his additional scenarios.
Kirk here.
It's Scott. You'd best get here right away, Captain.
Kirk hurried into his clothes and fairly ran. When he reached the lab and entered, Alex, Julius, Talbot, and Gallagher turned to him, their faces pale and drawn. Scott swiveled the computer screen so Kirk could see it.
It's bad, Captain. Remember when I told you that all the testing the Florians did was with an incredibly pure chunk of dilithium? That got me to thinking. You and I know that most of the dilithium crystals in operation out there are much less pure. When the virus alters the molecular structure of the pure crystal, it's as if you put a diamond in the matter-antimatter chamber. Nothing happens. But watch what happens with a crystal that's not quite so pure.
As Scott tapped the keys, the simulation played again. The light from the explosion on the screen was so bright that Kirk had to close his eyes. What happened, Scotty?
The virus weakened the molecular structure so much that the crystal shattered. The fusion of matter and antimatter without the intervention of the crystal resulted in a warp core breach. If you want to avoid a warp core breach as a result of this virus attacking the crystal, you need at least a 92% purity.
Kirk didn't want to hear the answer, but he had to ask. How many starships out there have crystals that will fracture if they're infected with this virus?
About 9 out of every 10 starships, of every make and model, of every fleet in the quadrant will be destroyed.
Kirk's mind reeled. The Florians weren't just going to invade Huon and dominate the dilithium trade. They were going to kill billions of innocent people while doing it. For a long, dreadful moment, no one spoke. Kirk took a deep breath and changed the subject slightly.
Scotty, is the virus presently active? No, but I'm betting that each probe will be remotely activated at some point, probably simultaneously, whenever the Florians decide the time is right.
Though the disaster might yet be averted, Kirk knew that the question was, what could they do? How did they go about warning the Federation and, incidentally, saving their own hides?
Scotty, you were able to piggyback onto their signal once, to raise their shield and shut down their security systems.
Do you think we could get a signal to Starfleet the same way? Scott looked thoughtful.
It's possible, but I doubt I could do it without actually being inside the complex. Then it sounds as though we'll have to get you inside.
Kirk gathered the colonists together and outlined his plan. As a result, over the course of the next 9 hours, small groups of 3s and 4s left the perimeter of the colony. They carried testing equipment and food and moved without haste toward the areas they were studying. The colonists all appeared to be going about their business of research and study. 3 times, Florian ships flew over, and Kirk knew they were all being carefully watched. Each team of colonists carried with them emergency ration packs and as many useful tools as possible. The one piece of equipment they didn't have were communicators. Mark Vita, the colony's geologist, had been meticulously mapping an extensive cave system, and that meant a place to literally go to ground and hide. Kate Gallagher had worked with Scotty on refining her masker. They had identified the frequency at which it worked to block Florian tricorder readings that could identify the colonists, and had implanted the small subcutaneous chip in the arm of each colonist. The entire plan was a huge gamble, but it was the only way to get people out of harm's way as quickly as possible. Alex came up to Kirk as the last team was getting ready for departure.
I'm coming with you, Uncle Jim.
Kirk put his hand on his nephew's shoulder.
The colonists need your help more than I do. The fewer people who try to break into that complex, the greater the likelihood that we'll succeed.
But you're taking Julius with you, and he's the one who got us into this mess.
Alex, he knows the Florians better than any of us, and he's more familiar with their equipment. We'll need his knowledge when we get inside.
Alex looked over at the group slipping on backpacks and checking their equipment. They looked back at him intently. Kirk hoped Alex could read their body language as he could. Come with us, Alex. We need you. We're afraid. Alex walked over to them and got ready to leave. When this last group departed Sanctuary, Kirk nodded to Scully, Julius, Scott, and Chekhov, and they climbed into the Drake. In his quarters, Listen was alone and savoring the Florians' inevitable triumph. It was hard to keep from gloating that Florians had kept the precious secret of the dilithium for as long as they had. Centuries ago, when the Huani had offhandedly deposited their own brethren on Falor, Listen's ancestor had stolen a single precious crystal. To this day, the Huani remain cheerily ignorant of the riches upon which they were squatting. Deep mineral layers under the soil prevented scanners from discovering the unbelievably pure deposits. Now, the Florians had weapons, allies, and technology. They could descend upon Huan and quickly, efficiently subdue it with a minimum loss of life. Listen was not after blood. He was after riches, power, and acknowledgement of the wrongs the Huani had perpetrated upon his people. Once he had that acknowledgement, the Florians would move in and harvest every kilo of the precious crystals, sharing, of course, with their good friends and comrades, the Orion Syndicate. And then, Listen would order the nanoprobe virus activated. The precious dilithium the Syndicate thought they had all but stolen from seemingly gullible Florians would be worth nothing more than any other rock. Nearly every ship in the quadrant, including Syndicate ships, would be hanging dead in space. No Syndicate to come looking for revenge, no Huani to attempt a retaliatory strike on Falor, and probably no Federation to send their mighty starships to protect their newest member planet of Huan. And even if they did, the Florians had James T. Kirk. The Federation would do anything to protect a man as honored and revered as Kirk apparently was. A youngster rushed into his quarters.
Kaltor, the colonists have fled!
The underling rushed past Listen, quickly activated the monitor, and called up several cameras, and each one showed the same dreadful image. An empty room, empty mess hall, empty labs, empty research stations, empty fields. Kirk. Listen knew it was Kirk's doing. Listen curled his fingers into a fist.
Find them! Find them now!
Camped in a cave deep within Sanctuary, some of Alex's group was worried. Leah Cohen, who was the colony's oceanographer, was staring at her fingers.
Alex, are they going to find us?
I don't know, Leah. We knew there would be dangers on this journey. What we didn't know was that the danger would be coming from the one group of people we thought we could rely on for help. Matka, the colony's irascible botanist, spat angrily.
I hope Kirk gets that message out, and after they've done that, I hope one of the Florians rips Julius's head off. Damn betrayer.
Alex paled. What do you mean? Kay Gallagher sighed.
It's a small colony, Alex. And it's hard to keep secrets. We know about Julius.
She didn't seem particularly angry, nor did any of the other colonists. Save for Matka, they all appeared to have forgiven Alex's wayward brother. If only Alex could, too. Alex was furious at Julius and terribly hurt. But no matter what his brother had done, Alex still loved him. Once, Alex had lived for Julius. If he now had to die because of him, so be it.
Hey! Oh, who's that?
Suddenly, a powerful bright light blinded the group.
Stay where you are, and nobody will get hurt.
Unable to see, Alex still rushed toward the familiar voice, feeling it was his responsibility. He fell backward as the phaser blast caught him in the chest. After an emergency summons from the President of the Federation, Admiral Laura Standing Crane materialized in the President's Paris office. She took her place alongside 4 other admirals and various high-ranking Federation civilians as the President signaled a screen to be activated, then turned to her.
Admiral Standing Crane, we've got a message from one of the Florians. Calls himself Listen.
The face of Kaltor Listen appeared on the monitor. He smiled pleasantly.
Thank you for attending. I've heard from our delegations that the planets of the Federation have shown us great hospitality. Out of gratitude, I'm going to give you a warning. We are poised to take Huan. Our vessels and that of our allies are moving even as I speak to you. You will be well advised to stay out of it.
The President reacted angrily.
Huon is a Federation planet. We will come to the aid of one of our own.
A noble sentiment, Mr. President, but quite misplaced. Listen well. We have set up buoys around Huon. If any vessel, Federation or otherwise, violates that perimeter, then we will activate a virus that will leave every ship you possess hanging dead in space. No Federation vessel will be able to engage warp drive. Think about that, Mr. President. Think about all the ships on deep space missions far away from any hospitable planet or starbase. It would take them years to get anywhere under impulse power.
Instead of firing more questions about the threat, the President chose a different tactic.
It is clear to me that you have great enmity toward the Huani. But the Federation has long been known for its ability to fold in different cultures and create harmony.
The President looked over at Standing Crane, who continued. Even now, we are making peace with the Klingons, a people who have historically been our worst enemies. War may not be the only option. Listen looked at her searchingly.
Tell me, Admiral, have you ever been owned? Has anyone ever owned your ancestor and then tossed him away like so much trash when his usefulness was done?
Admiral Thomas Mason spoke up.
I have such a history.
His dark brown skin was slightly shiny with beads of perspiration induced by the incredible tension in the room. He nodded in the direction of Admiral Anastasia Cannon.
A few hundred years ago, I would have been her property. And Standing Crane, her people were once herded like cattle onto reserved chunks of land. Their histories diminished, their language all but destroyed. So you aren't telling us anything that we haven't experienced and overcome right here on this single planet. The past is the past. We learn from it, and then we move on. The Florians and the Huani can do the same.
Listen seemed stunned.
I would I had learned of this sooner, but now it is too late. You have my warning. Perhaps you need another.
A Florian guard moved into view, roughly pushing a human prisoner in front of him. Alexander Kirk stared at them, his face puffy and bruised and bleeding. Listen nodded to the guard, who curled his fingers into a fist and landed a solid punch to Alex's abdomen. Listen gave Alex a command.
Tell them now.
Alex struggled for breath.
The Mayflower 2 has been destroyed. They've captured some of us, of the colonists. They say they have Uncle Jim too, but...
Listen abruptly terminated the conversation. The President turned to a young man named Parkon, whose people had a proven ability to accurately sense such things as emotions and falsehoods.
Tell me he's bluffing.
Parkon turned a stricken face to the President.
He's not. They're indeed moving toward Huon, and the desire for revenge is very powerful in him. He's telling the truth about what this virus can do, but he's hiding something.
Standing Crane addressed the President. Sir, there's more. A few days ago, Captain Spock came to me with rumors that the colonists might be in trouble. I said I couldn't authorize a starship on nothing more than rumors, but I did give him permission to investigate on his own if he could find a ship to take him to Sanctuary. The President turned to face the rest of the group.
We've got work to do. Send out orders to every civilian and Starfleet vessel to head for the nearest habitable planet or starbase at top speed. We'll have to think of some other way to help Huon. About this virus, I want everyone who can to get to work on finding out about it.